if you noticed. People were like, we were in Michigan, people were shouting, "Call on Kasich," you know, and they were begging the people to ask me a question. But Tony signed on early, which says something to me about guy's just got guts. He doesn't worry. You know, a lot of politicians are finger in the air, wondering what the heck is going to happen. Tony, you're a heck of a guy, and I appreciate what you've done. Thank you. Now, let me also tell you about Chris Shays. I love this guy, okay? He took all my stories this morning, but I love him. And let me tell you a little bit about why I think so highly of him. I mean, first of all, he was a Peace Corps volunteer. He and his wife. Was Betsy a Peace Corps volunteer also? So he decided to give his life to something, and we all admire him for it, something bigger than himself, which I'm going to talk to you about in a few minutes. Secondly, he came to Congress, and all he wanted to do was to fix problems. He has no interest in politics, absolutely zero interest. And he was one of the most reasonable people that you could ever find, intellectually honest. And guess what he got for that? Hillary Clinton came to Connecticut and tried to defeat him. That's how bad politics has become. Like, we can't even say, that's a good person, we don't want to defeat them, because everything's about winning and everything's about the, you know, about I got to have my person. And it's ruined the system, to be honest with you. Because there are people that were Democrats that I wouldn't have campaigned against, because I had regard for them. And this guy, intellectually honest, courage, doesn't care about re-election. It's just a wonderful person, and we were partners. I mean, we had a band of brothers and sisters where we fought. You know, we hear about, you know, that people don't like the establishment. I've never been in the establishment. We balanced the budget. You know what that meant? That meant I had to get everybody to have to vote on stuff that they wanted nothing to do with. The reason they didn't want to vote on it is because it made somebody angry. It made the special interest groups upset. Do you understand how that works? Why do you think we're $19 trillion in the hole? It's because people are worried about themselves and not worried about you, worried about the country, or worried about the bulk of the people. Because when you can't balance a budget, you can't create the kind of jobs you want. And when you do, you can have economic progress. But see, everybody gets torn down a little bit, because a lady down the street wants X, and the guy up the street wants Y, and this group, and that group, and this group, and we die by 1,000 cuts. So we had a band of brothers and sisters that said, we don't really care. If you don't like me, that's fine. But I didn't come here to be, you know, win a popularity contest. I came to Washington to do a job. And that's why we all had dogs, because if you want a friend in Washington, buy a dog, okay? And so we hung together, and here's what happened. This was a magical time. In 1994, and I'm not talking partisan here, I'm just giving you the facts as I see them. In 1994, we had a group of people who came to Congress who just simply didn't care about re-election. They wanted to reform the welfare program, so that people wouldn't get stuck in welfare for generations. They wanted to balance the budget. They wanted to do some tax cuts. And they wanted to challenge everybody in the establishment. And guess what happened? We got it all done. Chris was there. I'll give you another one. He lives in Connecticut now. His name is Joe Scarborough. I'm telling you, I hope he has a political future. I mean, he's on television now, but he may run for office at some point. He's as fearless about these things. And so what happened during that period of 95, 96, 97, 98, 99, we didn't care about any politics. The country did so much better. We actually were able to work things out with the Democrats, the Clinton administration. We balanced the balanced budget for the first time since man walked on the moon. We paid down $500 billion of the debt so you weren't stuck with it. And jobs were growing, because I assume you're at Sacred Heart because you want to get an education and go get a job. But if there's no jobs, what's it going to mean, okay? And when you meet people that stick together and don't care about the bumps in the road, you could change the world. And we really did. We changed the world. And Shays was a giant part of it. Then he shows up in New Hampshire, and he basically lives there for a month. And so he had to go to Africa for something, because he's also committed to what's going on in Africa. So he leaves, and his wife comes and fills in for him. Chris, I got news for you. I'd rather have your wife out with me than to have you with me, okay? So give him a great round of applause for what he's done in his lifetime. Now, I'm going to tell you something really, really boring. You see, I'm not going to tell you that we're going to drive around and yank, 11.5 million people out of their homes, or we're going to tell the Mexicans they're going to build the wall, or we're going to say we're going to make the sand glow and use all this hyped up language. I'm going to tell you something very, very boring. But I feel that I have to tell you this. You are here, you get religious education, right? You're Catholics, okay? Doesn't matter whether you're Catholic, doesn't matter what you are. I was just reading this morning about this guy's playing at Augusta. His name is help me out, DeBancho. I don't think that's the right way to say it. DeChambeau, okay? And I read a little line today in the paper about him. Because, he's kind of, they call him like a quirky guy. And for a lot of different reasons. I don't find him quirky at all. But there was one line. They asked him if he was nervous. He said he was not nervous, teeing off at Augusta with all these great golfers. And this line, and I tried to hunt it in other places, I couldn't find it. He said he was not nervous because he was saved by grace. He was saved by grace. That little line. And I couldn't find it anywhere else. I was just on the Dan Patrick show, the sports show, which he doesn't know this, but I'm taking over his show. But I mentioned it on the air. Why do I bring any of this up? Because part of my mission is to talk about this. Whether I get any sizzle or vote, it doesn't matter to me, because I'm not playing for the sizzle. Does everybody here know that you are made special? No, I mean, do you know that? You know that? You're Catholic. Well, I mean, just because you're Catholic doesn't mean you know that. Okay? I'm not sure I knew it when I was an altar boy. Okay? But here's the thing. If you're made special, that means nobody before you was ever like you. And it means that no one who will ever come again is like you. And I said this, I was in Utah, and there was a young lady sitting behind me, and I was looking at her, and I said, there's never been anybody like you. There'll never be anybody like you again. And she started to cry. Now, I don't know if it was because she had never thought of herself as being that special, or, as my wife said, maybe you scared her, okay? Maybe I did. But the reason why I tell you that is, number one, when we think about the challenges in life, addiction, depression, loneliness, failure, it can be tough. And just because you're made special does not mean that the winds of life, the storms of life, don't hit us. Doesn't mean that at all. But what it does mean is that we were made special by a creator that thinks we have a real purpose in life. Has there ever, think about how cool that is. So if you're a young kid and you're thinking, well, I'm going to get on drugs. Get on drugs to obscure your purpose? Because your purpose in life is to change the world. Your purpose in life is to bring healing to the world. Your purpose in life is to lift the world around you. Somebody asked me about running for president. Is it tiring? Is it wearing? Yeah, it can be. But then I think about St. Paul. They stoned him, beat him with rods, put him in prison, and all I got to do is stand on a stage and flap my mouth, But here's what I want you to think about, because there are many people that never find this and never understand this. If you were made special for a purpose, what is it that can take your joy away? I mean, what is it that could come in your way that deep down, way down inside of you, and I'm not talking about the sadness that we can experience in life with so many things that can happen to us, but what about way deep down inside? Isn't there a certain joy if you know that and if you believe that? So that gives us our mission in life. We don't really know what that mission is exactly, but we can feel it. So you go to school. Why are jobs so important? Well, jobs are important because many people live out their purpose, their God-given purpose, their mission in life based on what they do. So if you want to be a doctor, that's, to me, the coolest thing to be. I just got to tell you, I would trade everything to be a doctor. The problem was I wasn't good in science, okay? But in all seriousness, so a doctor has these skills, he or she, to heal, to comfort. And then oftentimes doctors, you know, the ones that I know, I mean, they go way beyond what they're expected to do. Teachers, it's another group of people. Most teachers never get paid any of what they could make if they weren't teachers, going doing something else. Why do they do it? Changing the lives of students. That's their dedication. You know, I was at my high school, not my high school, but a high school close to my house when I was doing our primary in Ohio, and I ran into the custodian. We used to call them janitors. Now we call them custodians. And I see this guy. I said, what do you do? He said, well, I'm the custodian here. I said, oh. You know, it's like the most important job in the school. He looked at me, you know, like, what are you saying? I said, well, you are the person that the kids feel the most comfortable talking to. You know more stuff that's going on in this school than the principal, the superintendent, the teacher. And it's true, right? Am I right? How many have had a custodian that you really loved? Wait, you raise your hand. How many had a janitor? Huh? I had one. I love this guy. So, you know, he's living a life bigger than himself. That's what we're supposed to do. So we're out here looking at who's going to be president. We're out here, okay, who's going to be the president? Who's going to come and save us? You. Hold on. No. You think that the president is going to save us? Yeah, it can help. The president is here to set the tone. And we've had presidents who have done that. And we all talk, everybody talks about Ronald Reagan. I actually, knew Ronald Reagan, okay? I actually worked with Ronald Reagan. I actually traveled with Ronald Reagan. And, in fact, one time we were going, he was coming to Ohio State. This is when he was very unpopular. Nobody wanted to appear with him because, you know, that's the way people are. If you're popular, they like you. If you're unpopular, they stay away from you. It's the way it works. So I'm with Reagan, and we're in the limousine headed to Ohio State, and the Secret Service guy comes on and says, you know, they're going to egg you when we come around the corner. So it's just two of us sitting in the back of the limousine, and limousine comes around, and they splat, 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 splat all these eggs. Reagan looks at me, the president says, he says, well, I guess the yoke really is on us. And we got to Ohio State, and by the way, it was so interesting because it was the students who wanted to tear the place down. Remember that, Doug? They had to put fencing up. Doug's, you know, he's supposed to be like, you know, he's supposed to be my sidekick, and he's never here when I need him. But the students understood what was in the guy, and he lifted the country. He did. He destroyed the Soviet Union and restored the economy. But what he really did is he gave us some hope. Okay, I buy that. If you read, you know, if you haven't ever read about Winston Churchill, you got to. Because those people over in Great Britain in the middle of that war, I mean, everything they had was being bombed. And Churchill would go on the air and he'd say, we're never, ever, ever, ever going to give up. And somehow people responded. Okay, that's good. But you see, the reason why it worked in Great Britain was because it wasn't just Churchill. It was the attitude of hope that rested in the people. He just brought it out because it's there. I mean, hope springs eternal in all of our lives. We want to live on the hopeful side. We don't want to live down in the ditch. America loses everything. It's just, first of all, it's just patent nonsense, okay? Think about America today. Look at what you got in your hand. The smartphones, the way you communicate, the way you shop, the way you travel. How about your health care? How about education? We're not winning. We're winning on about everything. We are still the strongest country by far in the entire world, and people ought to stop whining about America. Okay? So, and you know what that is? That's playing to people's fears. I learned something when I was up in New Hampshire, and you'd have thought I would have known this. I can walk into a room with 100 people, and I can make them feel positive about the ability to solve problems, or I can walk into a room and drive them into a ditch. You do whatever you want to do. Great leaders don't drive people into depression, and they don't divide people. Great leaders bring people together and respect the differences that exist in one another. And I'm going to get to questions here in a few minutes, but here's where I'm going with all of this. As the president, my job's going to be to, like, get things together down there. It's just nonsense. Everybody fighting. They fight within the party. They fight across party lines. You know, the president's using executive authority to shut the Congress out. You got a congressman that shouts at the president during the State of the Union, "You lie," and then he puts out a fundraising letter the next day, and we're all gnashing of teeth, all driven by those people down there. Maybe we ought to shut that place down and just stick them there for about 50 years, huh? Ridiculous. And that counts the special interest groups who participate in the dividing of our country. Dividing our country with agendas that are not designed to lift, but agendas that are designed to separate us from one another. How do you think we do separated from one another in this country, huh? Why do you think we talk about school spirit? Because it brings us together. Why are they going crazy at Villanova? The team won. What did it mean? It meant unity. You don't run at anything by dividing people. So anyway, my job is to clean that mess up, get the economy moving again, which I know how to do. Fix these things out here that are out there. The government is not functioning right. The VA, the IRS, all these things are just not working, and restore America's, its leadership in the world. But I have to tell you, if you want to see, it's my opinion, if you want to see the spirit of our country renewed, you want to see hope come back to America? It's in you. And it's in you. It's when you sit down at the dinner table and what you say to your family. It's about what we do in our neighborhoods, what we do in our parishes. It's about what we do to change the things and the world in which we live. That's what it's about. You got a drug problem here? Go fix it. Stick your nose into somebody else's business and go fix it. And any of the students here, you want to change the world a little bit? You go to a party tonight, Friday night. A lot of drinking. And then there's a room. And you're with your buddies. Oh, maybe we can go in that room. Those pills aren't that bad. They'll kill you. And I'll tell you what else they'll do. They'll destroy your God-given purpose. Drug addiction, unbelievable. And we're all susceptible to it. Everybody. So what do? You tell your buddies, you go in that room, I'm going to kick your butt. We're not going there. In fact, we're leaving this place. You want to fight drugs? Make up your mind in the schools. We're going to tell every kid in health class about the dangers of drugs. Why are we not doing that? Is it somebody else's business? If we think it's somebody else's business, we're going to go down. It's our business, what happens in our neighborhoods, in our communities, in our schools, and in our families. Okay? You want to... You want to change education? What are we waiting on? How are the schools doing, by the way? Are we preparing our young people for the jobs of today and tomorrow? Are we? No. I don't think we are. That's why we have so many job openings and not enough people to fill them. That's why people don't have the skills and their wages aren't going up, because we're not educating them the way that we should. Because sometimes education gets to be about adults and doesn't get to be about the students. You want to change it? Somebody came to me the other day. They said, I want to be involved in school reform. You have any advice for me? I said, yeah. Stand right here and run as hard as you can into that wall. And then you pick yourself up and you run as hard as you can again. We have a school system in Ohio, in Youngstown, where over the last 9 years, a total of 1% of the students who graduated from that school are college ready. 1% in 9 years. And it's all selfish. Oh, we're going to take that thing over. They're yanking me into court trying to prevent me. I will take that over and fix that school, because those kids deserve a good education. And I need the people who live there to fight for that. We worry about welfare. You got a welfare office here, Chris? You got welfare in Connecticut? Anybody on welfare? Take the business people into the welfare office, and when somebody comes in to get a check, you train them for the job that's located in the business that's sitting in the welfare office. We all have to do our part. See, I think what's happened is we've lost confidence in our ability to change the world in which we live. I don't know where this has come from. Maybe it's because big government has assumed responsibility. We give them all this money, and then we think, okay, we gave you the money, go fix it. What we ought to do is get some of our money back and just fix our own problems. And that's what we need to do. So, all right. I'm done. So now I'm going to take questions. But not after I get a little bit more polite applause. Right there.
I think one of the biggest burdens on our citizens is the federal income tax. I happen to be a huge fan of the flat tax. I'm curious your opinion on that and to hear your tax plan.
Well, let me ask you this. Going and changing the whole tax code to a flat tax, okay? You want me to make you feel good, or you want me to tell you the truth? I think tonight, I don't know if I'm flying to New York tonight or I'm going somewhere tonight. Why don't you and I just meet at the airport and we can just flap our arms and get there? Because there's a greater likelihood of that happening than a flat tax. And let me tell you why. If we were to start all over again, probably a flat tax would make sense. But that's not where we are. You see, if you want to go to a flat tax, you want to give up your home mortgage deduction? Do you want to give up your deduction for state and local taxes? Do you want to give up your deduction for charity? Do you want to, that's what this is about. And some people say, we got one guy saying, well, we ought to have a value-added tax. Let me tell you, that tax is everything that swims, walks, and flies. And when we raise it just a little bit, it brings all this revenue in. It's a revenue collector for big government. And then if you put that in, you think they're going to get rid of the income tax? That's not going to happen. We have not had tax reform since 1986. You know why? Because every time you want to change something in the code, somebody jumps up and yells about it. Now, what is the more practical way to do this? Simplify the system and have fewer brackets. I believe in the old Reagan plan, top rate of 28%, a 25%, and a 10% rate with an earned income tax credit so that the working poor can move up. Now, that's probably doable, but it will not be doable quickly, because under that scenario, there are deductions that will go away. And here's the problem with tax reform. The problem with tax reform, the people who gain for tax reform don't say anything. And the people who lose, who have things affecting them negatively, they go completely nuts. And they yell and scream at the legislators or the Congress, and they stop it. So what do I think the answer is? I think the answer is to get a group of committed Republicans and Democrats who are going to sit down to make the tax code simpler, flatter, fairer. That's the way you have to go. And then they're going to have to steamroll this stuff through, because I'm telling you, it will get picked apart. In my state, I go through tax reform. And tax reform means somebody wins and somebody loses. I happen to believe in lower income taxes. Oh, by the way, we're in Connecticut. Isn't that interesting? And I think the income tax is through the roof. And if I read about another company that's threatening to leave Connecticut, the proof's in the pudding. But you can't just... Yeah, that's right. No, but I'm going to give you a little adult government lesson. So you all want to have a lower income tax. What are you going to cut? You want to cut education? Huh? Is that what you want to do? What do you want to cut? See, because there's nothing free in life except college under Bernie Sanders' plan. But here's what I would say to you. Connecticut needs to get its income tax down. It needs to stop punishing businesses. But that means that you're going to have to change the tax code. Oh, you can cut the taxes by saving money in government, but there's not enough there in the savings area to get that done without having something go up when something else comes down. And in my state, I'm trying to bring the income tax down, and I've been successful, but largely I get blocked all the time. Let me give you a good example. In our state, we have fracking. We have energy. The energy companies, the frackers, pay like nothing. It's a joke. So I'm trying to raise it to 4%, which would still be like the lowest severance tax in America, and I would use the revenue from that to lower our income tax. I can't get it through. You know why? Because all the energy lobbyists and special interest groups fight me. And they make a million different excuses as to why we can't do it. That's what makes tax reform so difficult. And that's why you have to have a group of hard-nosed people like Shays who are willing to work together to come up with something that really is going to work. Because, you know, the time to, you know, people ran for Congress in 2014, and they said, oh, when I go to Congress, we're going to repeal Obamacare. Now, let me ask you, you don't have to be a government worker or a political scientist, but if the President of the United States, who has a veto pen's name is Obama, what do you think the chances were of repealing Obamacare? See, what that was a false promise. It was designed to get your vote, and all it does is either make you angry or make you cynical. We need to fix these problems. They're all fixable. But you have to do it in a way in which you can pass things. Can we, let's take the corporate tax. This is a completely different situation. We have some of the highest corporate taxes in the world. And we also double tax. So if you're in Europe and you're Amazon or you're, you know, whatever, you're any of the companies that, you know, we're Google, and you make profits in Europe, you pay taxes. And if you bring that money home, we tax you again at one of the highest rates in the world. So guess what happens? They invest in Europe and you don't get a job. Great, huh? Now, the answer to that is two things. Bring down the corporate tax. And number two, stop double taxing. If they pay in another country, you don't have to pay when you bring it here. That is going to pass if I'm president. You know why? It's like Christmas. I just cut the taxes and I don't have to make up for it. There's no offset. You understand? There's no pain, only gain. All I do is cut the taxes. I go home, I cut all the taxes. That's a great thing. That's going to happen. That will happen. Now, can we balance a budget? Yep, we can do that too. But that's going to be tough. I've already done it once in my lifetime, and in Ohio, so I've done it like twice. When I was there in Washington, we had 4 years of balanced budgets. How do you do it? You rally people together and you say, we're going to do this, and you're an American before you're a Republican and Democrat, and we're not going to waste your time serving here in public life. We're not going to waste your time. So we're going to do it. You want to fix Social Security? Piece of cake. Absolute piece of cake. But you're going to need Republicans fundamentally as the leaders, and you're going to have a few Democrats, because if you don't, the whole issue will be demagogued and nothing will happen. And we'll go farther in the hole, and it will continue to accelerate, making the solution more difficult. Can you fix it? Absolutely. How does it work? Well, people who have made more money throughout their lifetime are still going to get Social Security. They're just going to get less. And the people who really depend on it are going to get what they need, period. That's how you do it. But you got to pull people together to do it. So we have to be realistic about fixing things, because once we start to fix them, we will see an incredible positive result. I've seen it over and over and over again, and I wouldn't tell you that if I didn't believe it. So we got to pull everybody together. We got to have responsible programs. But if we were to go, you and I were to land on a desert island, we'd put a flat tax in. But we're not on an island right now. We're here, and we can continue to work our way towards flatter, fairer, and simpler. Now, you asked me what time it was, and I told you how I made the watch, but I hope that was useful to you, okay? We'll go right here. Yeah. Oh, you want a microphone now, too? I mean, I called on you, and now here, use mine. This is how Frankie Valli started out, or, the Beebs started this way, actually.
Okay. Hello.
There's a generation. I said the Beebs. Half in the room got it, and half is like, beeps. What is that all about, okay? Yes.
Okay, this is a question based upon, if I was to look at everybody, which I do, you are by far the most qualified man.
Okay, thank you. Let's get to the next person.
To be President of the United States.
Yeah.
But I think the hidden candidate you're going against is that level of distrust for previous politicians in general.
You're right. That's a good analysis. You're right.
I think when you get to the contested convention, you're on a roll where you could end up with the most delegates.
Right.
I believe you are doing wonderful.
It just happens to be in Cleveland. I mean, I'm not saying anything, yeah.
But I think in our background, at least in my back of my head, and I'm trying to get my head around it, is I don't even know why that actually exists. I think if it was just popular vote, you'd be president in a minute. But at the same time, if you got the most delegates, and for some reason we had the rug pulled out from under us, what would you say to that whole system? I just don't understand that whole system.
You mean the convention?
Yeah, I don't understand the system of why it can pull a rug out from under
you
somebody.
mean like Trump's going to have more delegates, so therefore he doesn't get picked? Is that what you're driving at?
No, I'm really not.
No, that's okay. No, we have to be honest with one another here. By the way, I don't know if you knew this, but Abraham Lincoln went in 4th place. I mean, but he printed up phony delegate passes and all that. Are we working on that? Anyway, now here's the way it works. Look. The only rule that has been set that I know of is you have to have a certain number of delegates to get picked, okay? Think of it, somebody gave me an idea, I don't remember, it was better in explaining, but let's think about grades. Did you have a diploma from college or whatever? Okay, high school, okay. So an A was like 90 to 100, right? So what if you got an 88? Did we give you an A? I don't think so. I mean, my daughters would say, my daughters are 16, and one of them, by the way, just got picked today to be one of the class officers. I'm so happy for her, yes. So, Reese, yeah. So we'd know what the rules are. And if you don't have enough, you go to the convention, and then you have delegates. Who are the delegates? Well, they're probably, people like Tony or people like Chris, or not just them who are, like elected people, but there are people here who've worked in the Republican Party for, 40 years. They've never run for office, but they're like party workers and stalwarts. They get to go to the convention too. And they all gather, and we have balloting to decide who can make that number, that magic number that was set. So here's what happens, though. It's very interesting because in 1976, I was very young, and I went out to the convention when Ronald Reagan was challenging Gerald Ford. And I actually worked 5 states for Governor Reagan. And I met with these delegates, and they were extremely serious. And what they were trying to figure out is, number one, who could win the fall election, and number two, who would be the best president. And they concluded it was going to be Gerald Ford. But I saw how things had changed. You see, when people go to a convention and they're going to pick a president, they go from somebody that might be saying something on Monday where they don't understand it into a convention hall where all of a sudden they feel a great sense of responsibility. And what the delegates are going to do is they're going to try to figure out who can win in the fall, because that's the purpose. And by the way, I'm the only candidate who consistently beats Hillary Clinton in the fall. I'm the only one. And I think they're going to try to figure out who can be president. And I'm the only one with a record of success, both on domestic and international affairs. And I think, I'm going to have a very good shot.
I think if that didn't exist, you would not have a problem.
If what didn't exist, a convention?
I think if we just had...
Well, I mean, if I have to run for re-election, maybe we'll consider whether we need a convention or not. But no. No, I don't think that's the way to do it, because what would you do now? Now you're deadlocked. Nobody can get to the magic number. So you got to get in and you got to talk about it. All that's going to happen is the people who go are going to talk about who do we want. And then they'll cast their votes for who they want. And then we'll end up with one. Some of these, look, there have been 10 Republican conventions. 7 of them did not pick the front runner. Only 3 of them did. Now, here's the best thing that's going to happen about the convention. Do you realize how many people are going to learn about how their government works? We've been talking for how long? They put on the late night shows, they ask somebody, hey, who's the vice president of the United States? And they're like, oh, I don't know. Lindsay Lohan? I don't know. Okay? And the fact of the matter is, we're going to learn about this. It's going to be a great education for our young people. It's a serious matter. And it's a very serious matter. We're picking the president of the United States and the leader of the free world. It should be serious, and in the process of this, we're all going to learn a lot about how it works. Now, here's what's most important. At the end, you have to come together. You can't be a baby. If you don't get enough votes, you go on, and that's the way it has to be. And we'll see what happens. So anyway, good question, and you jumped up so fast, so how can I ignore you? Okay, you want to shout it out, or what do you want to do here? Do you go to school here?
I do.
Okay. What are you taking?
Communications.
Oh, communications. Okay, and what year are you?
I am a sophomore. I'm going to be a junior next year.
Okay, good luck. All right, yes.
Okay, so my dad's an environmental engineer, and he wanted me to ask you about your policies on fracking.
Yeah, I'm for energy. It's a couple of things. First of all, yes, I do think that we need to recover that resource, okay? But secondly, that does not mean that it is inconsistent with environmental protection. We in Ohio have the toughest laws, which we ought to have nationally, the toughest laws on being able to have fracking, but at the same time to make sure that the environment is going to be protected and we're going to be safe. So we constantly upgrade our regulations. In fact, I was with President Obama a couple of years ago at a basketball game, and I told him, I said, we don't need your regulations in here because ours are tougher than yours. Don't come in and mess us up, okay? And so it's important you have regulations. See, I think that a good, healthy environment is absolutely consistent with economic development if you work at it. Because you don't want to worship the environment, but you want to protect it, and you don't want to destroy people's jobs in the process. But here's the thing about energy. I have to tell you that throughout my lifetime, and some of the people sitting in the front row, we have made decisions about going to war based on the fact that we needed energy. I don't think we should be energy independent so we don't have to go to war because of the issue of energy. But there's another side of this too. You see, when We have low energy prices in America. We can begin to bring some of these industries back to our country that have moved out. It's a great advantage for us. So we should exploit the resources without destroying the environment. What's your father's position? Is he against or for it?
He's against.
Okay. Well, tell him what I said, and, you know,
I will.
have him give me a call.
Okay.
When I became governor, I had these cards made up, you know, John Kasich, governor of Ohio, and I would give it to people. And I would say, here's my card, call me anytime. But if you actually, and everybody would take the card, put it in their pocket, and then if they ever looked at it, there was no email or phone number on the card. It was great. All right. Anyway, where am I going to, how come I'm doing all the picking? Chris, you come and pick them. No, you come and pick. Come on.
We're going to go with you, sir.
Okay. Chris, you come on up on this stage. You and Tony. Come on, guys, come on back up here. Because if any of the questions are really hard, they're going to answer them. Go ahead.
Governor Kasich, thanks for coming here to Connecticut. Thank you very much for all that you've done for our nation over the years. We appreciate that very much.
Did I pick well? Yeah, you did. You did.
Governor, I am a state representative for us.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
Go ahead.
But on that note, Governor,
Yes.
as you said earlier, I'm a physician too. And that is what you wanted to be. So I'm going to ask you a question related to medicine. What are we going to do in our country? You know, healthcare, the crisis that we have. You mentioned about the opioid abuse, you know, which is destroying our nation, destroying our state. Healthcare access to people. Medicare, will it not be there? That's on the minds. I am Medicare at this point in my life, and I'm concerned for me, my wife, my family, obviously. So how are we going, with the advances?
What are we going to do? What are we going to do?
With the advances in technology, how are we going to keep up, and what would you do so that we sustain a system that will work for all of us?
Well, first of all, I think it's, you have to agree, Doctor, that it is so exciting to see what's happening with healthcare in our country in terms of people actually being able to be healthy and active and live an incredible life way into their 90s, right? I met a guy the other day, he's 83. He was turning 84, and I said, God, you look great. What are you drinking so I can get a barrel of it? And he said, no, it's in the genes. My mother is turning 107, and he said, my aunt died a premature death at 106. And, but look, I think we should celebrate that, but I think we have to also recognize, you know, while I'm for controlling a lot of the spending, there are some things that have to go up. And one of the things that has to go up is the National Institutes of Health, because we've got to exploit technology and research. And we did that when we were in charge. We doubled the NIH budget. Now, I will tell you that I have heard that universities take that money when they get research dollars and they put it into overhead, which is an outrage and a ripoff. It has to be stopped. But I mean, we have to deal with the problem of Alzheimer's, dementia, pancreatic cancer, ALS, childhood cancers. We're going to have to do the research. And I'm for that. Now, in terms of health care itself, sir, I think it is the most mysterious program known to man. And here's why I say it. I got a hospital bill the other day from the Cleveland Clinic. I looked at it and I said to my wife, do we have the Dead Sea Scrolls here in the house? Because I think it'll be easier to understand than this hospital bill, right? Nobody knows anything. We don't know how our hospitals do. We don't know what their quality is. We go to the hospital, right, and we go, okay, we're in the hospital. Now people are beginning to find out medical mistakes. They're beginning to find out you get sick in a hospital. You were sick when you went in, you get sicker. I mean, people know that, okay? And we don't know what the readmission rate is. We don't know anything. We need total transparency on our health care providers. The same is true with our physicians. We really do not know how they do. And the fact is, what we're driving in our state, which I would like to drive nationally, is a system of complete transparency. And people who charge below the median in healthcare, whether they're doctors or hospitals with high quality, I believe should get a financial reward. and those who are above the midpoint are going to be pressured to improve their quality and lower their prices closer down. We need to have downward pressure on health care, not runaway costs in health care. You know, it's almost like our college and university system. We keep putting more money in, they keep raising it, more money, up. It's not sustainable. And this healthcare system is not sustainable. So what kind of a physician are you?
I'm an allergist.
You're an allergist. Okay, well, if you keep me healthy over the course of a year, because we're looking at specialties, we're looking at primary care. We're saying if our primary care doctor keeps us healthier and charges, you know, it's high quality with lower prices below the midpoint, they get a financial reward. Everybody's buying into this in our state. The insurance companies, the healthcare providers, because they know there's no end in sight. Now, I happen to expand Medicaid in Ohio, and I have been ripped by many in the Republican Party, but I felt that access was important for people, and I also don't believe that the mentally ill ought to be sleeping under a bridge or living in a prison. I think they need to have an opportunity. But we have to make sure that we are innovating and that we are using market forces too. So for people who are on Medicare, give you an example. If you're on Medicare today, you buy a supplemental policy that has first dollar coverage. First dollar coverage is not appropriate today. That just encourages overutilization. If you need the coverage, fine, you can be protected, but we can't overutilize these programs. You know, if you retire and you are in a coordinated care plan, the default option in Medicare is fee-for-service. That's the most expensive health care we can practice, and it is even confusing. So there's many things that we can do to get the government programs under more control, but to me, the whole business is about the market. And then when it comes to technology, are you kidding me? You know, we're going to end up doing our own tests in our own home. We're going to be using computers that, you know, to communicate the data, right? You know what the heck is going on. So it can be a great time, but we have to be innovative, and we can't keep doing the same things over and over again, because at some point we're going to end up rationing care, and you know who's going to be rationed. It's going to be the people who are constantly left out of everything. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you, doctor. Chris? Pick somebody. And the next one that gets picked, if they spin the wheel and it comes up right, there's a new car waiting right outside the arena.
Well, these are high schoolers that got up at 5 in the morning from East Line. They came up to support you. So,
wow.
say to the young people.
I think, well, they get to ask the question, but I think, I will bet you dollars to donuts that they're going to want me to write an excuse so they get out of school today. Okay, what's your question?
Actually, I have a question. I'm a student at Fairfield University.
Oh, you are?
I am, yeah. They're in high school. I'm at Fairfield.
Okay.
I don't know if this is working. My father was a Marine, and he fought in Vietnam. And thank you. He actually passed away 3 years ago from exposure to Agent Orange. So for the past 3 years, my family's been dealing a lot with the VA and with benefits from the VA and having a lot of trouble dealing with the VA. And when my dad was alive, he was actually a New York State Supreme Court judge, and he was behind the backing of the first Veterans Court in New York State. So what can we do for the veterans, and what do you want to do to help fix the VA and help make better progress for those who served?
And how old are you, young lady?
I'm 20.
So you were 17 years old, is that right?
I
When
was.
you lost your daddy.
I was, yeah.
How you getting along?
I'm getting there.
Are you?
Yeah,
You know there's hope out there, right?
I know. Thank you.
You know, everybody's not going to agree with this, but you know the Lord's in charge. Do you know that?
I do, and I agree with you.
And let me tell you that in 1987, I got a phone call at 11:45 p.m. that my mother and father were in a terrible car accident, and they both died. And it was really hard. But you know what? Friends came. I found my faith, and I'm doing really well. And it's going to be that way for you if you reach up for the light, okay? Okay. Now, the first thing we're going to do is Congressman Shays is going to get your name and phone number, and we're going to go to the authorities, and we're going to stop screwing around with the VA. Okay, we're going to get you the help you want. I promise you. Okay? Now, there's been a history of us not paying attention to veterans the way we should, and I don't even understand it. So the first thing we have to say is a combat veteran who comes back to the United States who has either issues with stress or issues that are physical, they should be able to go and get health care anywhere they want to and not be having to wait to go to the VA, okay? That's number one. Let me also tell you that, look, I know the guy who runs the VA. I want to tell you about him. His name is Bob McDonald. He used to run a small little organization called Procter & Gamble, okay? And he had a good career at Procter & Gamble. And then he took this job with the VA, unbeknownst to me, and I knew him because he lost his job at Procter & Gamble. You know, this works. You put the stock up, it comes down a little bit. Nobody ever thinks about how high you took it when it started to come down. He lost his job, but he's very, very capable. He also went to West Point. I mean, this guy loves his country as much as anybody. What I have concluded from this is he has not been able to overcome the bureaucracy. The bureaucracy has overcome him. And I haven't talked to him, and I don't want to bash him, because he's fundamentally a guy that loves his country. I just can tell you that. It shows me that the whole organization is dysfunctional. So we've got to find the best people in our country who can break this organization down into pieces that are responsive to people that need help. Last night I was with Montel Williams, who's you all know about him he's a great guy. He's also was in the Navy. He also was a Marine. He also went to the Naval Academy. Things you don't know about Montel. And he pointed out the number of suicides that we are seeing. You know, it's like it's 7 years now. How is this happening? You know, the suicide line, they said you have to wait 2 days. I mean, this is just a disgrace on our country. So we've got to break that organization down, and we've got to find somebody who's got the high credentials and credibility with the public. And I don't know who that is right now. Okay, well, you know, it's a thought. It's a thought. But, you know, the kind of thing I was thinking about is somebody like a Bill Gates, which he's not going to do it, but somebody that says, I have confidence. Now, Shays would be terrific because he has no fear, and he wouldn't care who he made mad. He'd go get it done. But unwinding this bureaucracy will not be easy. So you have to get unwinding experts, restructuring experts. The other thing we need to do is when we have a veteran coming back to the U.S., we need to connect them with the job openings that exist. We do not do that today to the degree we should. So we have job fairs. You're a veteran, you go to the job fair. That's not the best way to do it. The best way to do it with the technology we have today is what did you do, what do you want to do, and these are the openings. That's what we have to do, and bring that information. And secondly, if you're in Afghanistan and you drive a truck in Afghanistan, we actually think in Ohio, or you should think in Connecticut, like we can drive a truck in Ohio or in Connecticut. We don't need to get like training, okay? So just give them their licenses. They were an EMT, give them their EMT license. Do not insult the veteran who's got the experience. And the veterans, they are our golden employees. Everybody wants to hire a veteran. They're drug-free, they've got leadership, they're flexible, they're team. I mean, it's just ridiculous. So I would tell you, young lady, it's a very high priority for me. And I also will tell you that we will help your family. And it shouldn't have to be you asking somebody on the stage and putting yourself out like this to get help. We have to fix it, okay? All right, thank you. Who else do I want to go to? All right, sir, you in the red. Yes, you. We have a canned ham down here for you. Yeah. What is your name?
I'm John Parments. I'm a senior here at Sacred Heart University. So, just my question would be...
What are you taking there?
Oh, I'm studying criminal justice and business.
Okay, good.
So my question for you is, what changes would you put in place to balance our position more effectively with global trade and commerce? And my next question, part two, what are the chances I could shake your hand and get a picture of you after this is over?
I'll tell you, I'll make a deal with you. If I'm president, you can come shake my hand. How's that? No, how many hands? I mean, let's talk about it, okay? So here's the, I mean, in terms of trade, is that what you're talking about? Well, look, I mean, I'm talking about a couple things. In trade, you are too young, but I will tell you that your parents and some of the folks that are here remember when Japanese cars came into the United States. What happened when Japanese cars came into the United States? What happened to the U.S. cars? What?
They got better. They got better.
Everybody said they all got better because there was no competition. You know, it's sort of like if you have a pizza parlor in your town, but you only have one, you don't get much pepperoni. When a second one opens up, it's amazing how much more pepperoni you get. But the idea of us trading around the globe is good because, first of all, most of them have barriers to us. We bring the barriers down. We have better access to their markets. The problem has been, I mean, first of all, I don't know if all these trade agreements, could they have been negotiated better? No doubt in my mind that they could have been. But the other part of it is when countries cheat, we have been slow to stop them from doing things to steal our jobs. You have to have an early warning system. When we suspect that somebody is cheating, we have to stop it. And I think for a long time the country has not been aggressive on this. That doesn't mean we don't want to have trade. We need trade. I want to trade with people in Asia because I want to have friends out there because sometimes the Chinese are not always my friends. I'd rather have some other friends, right? So we need to have an early warning system. We need to take action to protect American jobs. But overall, I believe the trade is good for us. It brings innovation and quality, but we also have to have retraining money for people who have lost their jobs because their industry's not working as well here as it did, and they got to find new things to do, and we've got to spend money on that. Now, I also want to tell you, since you're a criminal justice major, that we have made significant changes in criminal justice in my state, which should be done all over this country. You cannot lock your way up out of all this. It makes no sense to take a nonviolent felon and stick him in a prison next to a murderer or a rapist and think you're doing your job. We have to have a new attitude about criminal justice. And frankly, in all the systems across this country, if somebody wants to get a skill and work their way out of prison, if you know, and they are nonviolent felons in particular, give them an opportunity to get out and get a second chance. These are the kinds of things, because I happen to believe in rehabilitation. If you're a gangbanger or a murderer, we're going to lock you up, throw away the key for the rest of your life. But if you're interested in improving yourself, we'll give you a chance. Our recidivism rate in my state is less than, it's just slightly higher than half the national average, and it's working. So anyway, you're going to have a good job in that criminal justice if you focus there, because that is a field that is going to grow in this country. Yes, sir, right here.
Hi, I'm chair of the math department here at Sacred Heart University.
Oh my goodness, the chairman of the math department.
First, it's an honor to have you here. And
the honor's mine, sir. This is a fantastic thing today.
So
I'm loving this.
Mathematically speaking, you'll get the 1237 on the second ballot.
Okay, good.
But my question is about your views on the Common Core.
Ooh. Yeah. Well, I'm going to give you the whole story about it.
Oh, sure.
I wasn't there, but a bunch of governors got together and they said that the standards in Louisiana and the standards in Florida, the standards in Connecticut, all, you know, we ought to have high standards. And then this thing took on a life of its own on the internet, and people said this was the federal government. And then they had Race to the Top money, which they used. Race to the Top money only said to states, raise your standards. Now, in our state, I'll tell you how it works. Our state school board has approved higher standards. I want high standards in my state. I want high standards in this country. The curriculum for meeting those high standards, they don't come from Washington. The standards that we have are high standards for Ohio. Ohio puts them in, we enact them, and the curriculum for carrying out those standards is set by the local school board. That is what it is in our state. That's what it is, in my opinion, across the country. Now, let me also tell you that I don't want to run education out of Washington. I want education to be run out of the states and the school board level. I would shift 104 federal education programs back to the states. Now, I think the reason... No, I tell you, I think the reason you're asking this question is because you find a lot of students that come to school who can't even do 11th grade math. Am I right? No, seriously, give him that microphone back, because I'm going to question him here. I mean, don't we find that students come here and you're having to teach them things that they should have learned in high school? Is that right?
It happens, definitely, yes.
See, we put a third grade reading guarantee in. 94% of our third graders now are able to pass a third grade reading test. This is like it used to be that, you know, we just pass kids to the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th grade. By the time they get to the 10th grade, they quit. High standards is necessary in the 21st century. Am I right, sir?
Absolutely.
I mean, that's what you need. And when you come to this school, you got to be prepared to learn the college level stuff. So I also believe that we ought to have an online, and maybe you could help develop it. And no, I think it should be an online program where you can remediate yourself in both math and English before you go to college. Because we don't want to spend our time paying tuition at Sacred Heart on the basis of information we should have learned in the 11th grade. That's costing us a lot of money. So, but, you know, in regard to what you read on the internet and all that, I would just give you one bit of advice. Believe virtually none of what you read and only half of what you see. Okay? That's what my philosophy is. So, in all seriousness, you know, we have to become better folks able to discern, you know, what's right and what's not right. Because, you know, if you think about, for example, the new media today, do you know that many people get paid, I don't know how many, but some people, maybe many, get paid on clicks. So if you're now a journalist or whatever you want to call them, you write a headline that forces somebody to click, because that's how you get paid. Now, people have to realize that you cannot just conduct your whole life on the basis of money. You know, there's got to be some self-restraint, right, to do the right thing, even sometimes if you don't make the money that you would love to make. So anyway, so listen, I can take one last one and I have to go. So I'm not picking the last one, Shays, you are. How about this lady right here in the red? I mean, she gets the last, I don't know what to tell you. I've got like other things I got to do too, you know.
Hello. Hi, Governor Kasich. Thank you for coming to Connecticut. It's an honor to have you. I want to let you know that for decades you've been one of my top 5 favorite politicians of all time. Way back to the Republican Revolution, the contract with America.
Like best surfer in Kansas. I got you. Okay.
I'm curious about what your path to the White House is, because I really believe you're the best candidate that we've seen in a long time.
Well, yeah.
And I'm aware of the Romney rule, where if you don't win a majority
there
in
is
8
no
states,
Romney rule. That's so yesterday.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah. We don't have any rule.
Okay, good.
No, I mean, look, the issue is, are they going to just have an open system? I think they will. Okay. I mean, I don't know, but, you know, I don't think so. I mean, I don't think they're going to be having to make some rule that we existed 4 years ago. How did it work, by the way? Not great.
Yeah.
So anyway, look, my goal is to win as many delegates as I can heading into the convention. And it's important for me to continue to raise money, to build political team. And I've been playing from behind the whole time. And the reason why I've been playing from behind for the whole time is because I didn't in the beginning, and I'm not now, going to take the low road to the highest office in the land, so I didn't get a lot of attention. Now, I am not whining about it anymore, complaining about it, okay? I mean, I might have complained. It might have been a little whine. Okay, I can accept that. But in all seriousness, I didn't get any attention because I couldn't get the eyeballs. And but you know, it's starting to work now. and I'm having a great time. This is my mission, and I'm going to keep doing it until somebody tells me that I can't do it, and it ain't going to be anybody who's a pundit. By the way, you know why God invented pundits? To make astrologers look accurate. They haven't been right about anything since this whole thing started. So we're just going to keep plugging, and we need your support, and we want to do well in Connecticut. And if I don't win here, I'm going to blame Wang and Shays. Just that simple. So let's, for all of you, thank you. Thank you for your question. Let me conclude.